and he was a bad guy. He never returned slaves. When he caught them, he just killed them. And I guess his reputation was it preceded him. They caught him, and they hung him in the barn. We went into the barn, and...
Now, when you say bounty hunter, you're talking like somebody that's a bounty hunter, like, somebody goes out and gets slaves, brings them back to the people, and then gets paid for doing it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or gets paid in advance a portion to finance the search.
So all he would do is like they did out west. They would just take the guy's boots and hat and mail it back. Just take all his clothes and throw them out in the wilderness and continue on.
Right.
Or chop their finger off, mail it back in, take the money and go. But the guy was still alive.
Only this guy wouldn't leave.
He wouldn't. He wouldn't leave. He would just kill them and then say, "I can't find them."
Or kill them and maybe possibly send something back.
Okay.
Hey, here was your slave. Sorry about your luck.
So he was a really...
He was a bad guy.
Dirty guy.
Yeah, that's the history from the curator of the place and everything that we have been able to find. So we get into the barn, and I tried to do, the hey, can you talk to us? We're just here to learn. If you want to talk into the red light, blah blah blah. Nothing. And after about a half hour, 45 minutes, I said, okay, time to have some fun now. Because, I'm going to get something.
Now, when you said talk into the light, you're talking like you want them to talk into the EVP recorder and...
Yeah, exactly. Or
have an
camera.
EVP session.
Whatever, because we've caught EVPs on the camera that the reporters didn't catch before, which is an odd phenomenon in itself. Both objects are very close, but one of them picks something up, the other one doesn't even, there's nothing registers at all. I provoked very hard that night. I was very rude, very obnoxious. We caught a little movement, noise, that was it. I don't have a problem letting that. Like I said, I was a cop. I can turn that switch on and off pretty easily. And there are times when I do it intentionally, but I can also come across kind of gruff occasionally, and I don't mean to, and that's when I get the EVP I said earlier, the female with the stuffing me. The night I went back into the house after my son had been threatened, I sat there for 10 minutes and I called whatever was there everything but a milk cow. You spend eternity as a coward, really threatening a child. I'm a grown man. Do something. If you're that bad, do something to me. Show me. And got nothing. No EVPs. Nothing moving. No shadows. Nothing at all for that entire 10 minutes.
So you got absolutely nothing. Nothing visual. Nothing sound.
Not while I was on my rant. As soon as I got done, I get up and...
Now, were you alone on this investigation, or...
I had sent Kenny and another person that was there assisting the investigation, sent them out front. I got done. I went out front to let them know that I was done. A recorder in the house, the same recorder that captured should have hurt him, captured even clearer voice that said, hurt your feelings. So, twice, we caught EVPs in the house that were specific to events that were happening in the house. Garrett being scared and wanting to leave and being absolutely shaken up, captured an EVP that said should have hurt me. Or called an EVP that said should have hurt me.
Yeah.
Me, and I was very emotional. You nothing that's going to threaten my son, and not have me at least say something.
See, I'm the total opposite. If somebody wants to say something to my family, I'm not too hung-go on it, but I'm not gonna take it seriously unless that thing I know can do it.
Oh, I take it serious.
Kind of like if you're gonna make spaghetti, you better have a boiling pot of water, or don't tell me you're gonna make spaghetti type deal. Because a lot of these entities, I realize, they don't have any power over me, so they're not gonna do anything.
No, and that's something else we figured out. Or we think we figured out. And this is going back to the para-unity. I've shared this. And I've got no problem, any paranormal group that's interested, I'll happily give these to. Or any of them that want to go, to our wall or my wall and see. You bring with you the energy to capture the evidence you're going to capture. And
kind
what
of.
I mean by that, if you are of a non-emotional person, or you keep your emotions in check and you're going at it as a scientific, completely Spock-type personality, you're probably not going to catch that, that holy grail piece of evidence. I'm not saying you need to go in being aggravated or upset, extremely emotional. Kenny and I started the group, and Kenny, he makes a joke. He said, one of these days, you're going to run, and I'm going to hang around for a second longer. He said, just so I can say that I lasted longer than you. Kenny's not easily shaken either. And we were going to places. We had gone to a store in Portsmouth, and there had been some other people involved in the investigation. And while these other people were there were a couple girls who were relatives of Kenny. They were younger, and they were really shaken up. They were scared, and they were noticeably scared. And we got all kinds of activity while they were there. That was when I said the obelisk said kill Jim. That's when they were there. They left at about 1 o'clock and left Kenny and I alone in the building. And the building went quiet. We hit every floor. Every tool that we had, nothing. And we were there for a couple more hours and not anything. And this, like I said, the building had been very active and very productive up until these girls, and there was another guy, up until they all left. And he and I talked about it. We said, we need to find somebody who's honestly scared, but loves to go on investigations. Because when you're afraid, your body is producing energy.
Yeah, but that's the wrong kind of energy. You could get something feeding off that and get really, really bad results.
But that's just it. When the homeowner, you're at your house and something scares you, and you start really thinking about it and getting more and more scared, that's when other things start happening, because you are feeding that. And that's what we decided we needed with the group, was somebody who had that fear or was able to produce that fear to kind of feed the environment. And
well, if you get somebody that's too afraid, you're going to get a wrongfully environmental, and then it's going to really downset itself.
Michael, like I said, he's the self-professed runner. He gets shaken. He won't walk the hallway by himself. Second floor Waverly Hills, we had all gone through one spot, and every one of us had felt sick to our stomach when we got past this one door. And we were discussing how everybody reacted to it. And Kenny said, each one of us needs to take a camera, walk down to the end, knock on the door, or knock on the wall at the end, turn around and walk back by ourselves. He said, and see what we catch.
Have you ever discovered somebody who was demonic? Somebody from the room wants to know if it was demonic.
What was demonic?
What have you ever encountered something that was demonic, or what you're describing right now at the end of this room is demonic?
I will catch grief over what I'm about to say. I'm certain of it. I don't necessarily believe in demons. I believe that there are malicious spirits that like to feed off of that fear, and may like being falsely credited with being demonic, from what they understood when they were alive. I went to church the first 17, 18 years of my life, every Sunday, every Wednesday. I'm at a point now where I've got a different opinion than a lot of people. If there is a demonic realm, then I'm probably looking at being in trouble at some point, because I'll walk right up to it.
Yeah, I've gotten thrown through a wall one time at a church service.
Really?
It came right out of the person and slammed me into a wall.
Really?
Yeah, I've seen a demon come out of an elevator when I was a kid in a church. I tell the story all the time on our show here. We were in the elevator. Something started coming in the elevator. We felt it. We got out, and the thing was right there. It had evil eyes to look. I ran, and it almost got me. I have seen things come out of people and attack people. I call them clotheslining because that's what it looks like, but they come out with their arms open out, screaming and knocking people down. I've had a person fell backwards, and this thing was still in front of me, told me, a few choice words,
right,
and told me that I had no reason to be there, and took a nice swing across my face. And, everybody knows how tall I am, but by looking at me right now, sitting or something, I'm 6'1". I weigh about 276 to 283, depending on, what mood I am in, how much I've gained or lost that week. So I'm not the type of I didn't go down. I'm not the type of person to go down with a swing. But
exactly.
this same thing happened to somebody else from the same person. Came out and swung and broke her nose and jaw. I was told about that. I did not see that one. So whatever it was that hit me, I felt it. I knew it was still there, and I just stared at it. And I told it, okay. And I just kept looking at it, and eventually it left. People were praying and everything like they do at church, they do. And it was a church service, and it was casted out. I don't believe it was casted out of the person, because the person still has something in them. I was told that I have a gift from God of discerning spirits, and and I've seen some things that if I told you, nobody would believe me on this show.
No, I'll challenge you on that, because I don't doubt when somebody tells me. It doesn't have to be about the spirit realm. Look, when I was a cop, I had my cruiser lit up by 3 lights that were less than 100 feet above me in the sky, and there was no prop wash. There was no sound.
Oh, that's a UFO.
I didn't kill my engine, but I saw what's technically described as a UFO. It was an unidentified object that was in the sky, and it was less than 100 feet above me.
Well, a lot of people don't realize that the UFO term is used for something that's unidentified. It doesn't mean it's alien craft from another world or from the middle of the earth. It means that it cannot be identified and it's in the air.
Exactly. And I watched this thing. It didn't shut my car off. It lit the inside of my cruiser up like it was new. I pulled. I don't even know what caused me to stop, but I stopped. I took my foot off the brake, put it back on the gas, and went up to the intersection, which slid in fine, and I turned and stopped and got out of my cruiser to watch as this thing went straight up in the air, and within 4 seconds, it was gone. There was no light that could be seen from it. I mean, it shot straight up and gone. So when somebody says, "Hey, I saw a UFO," I listen. When somebody says, "Hey, I've got a ghost in my house that's throwing coffee cups at me," I listen. And even though I've never run across a demon, and my beliefs don't necessarily allow for that realm. When somebody says, "Hey, I have a demon here," or "I've encountered a demon," I don't dismiss it. I listen because I'm not the know-all and be-all of everything in the universe. I've got the propensity to be wrong. I've been wrong in the past.
Well, if you really want my opinion on some of this stuff, I mean, a spirit can do it. But what I've seen, I go by experience. And what I've seen, what I've felt, what I know, what I've been taught about it. Now, maybe it was a spirit, but I can't explain it being a malicious spirit like you're talking about, coming out of somebody and the person acts different after it comes out. If that was that person's soul, number one, the person probably would have had a heart attack from the energy in the system. Because you cannot have two souls in your body. That's why your body reacts. So if this thing was inside their body, which it was, the person came into the service with it, and it left at the service. Obviously, before this, the person is fully functionable, not having any problems. Therefore, it's still in their body. And now it's leaving their body. Unless it is a living, organic germ, which I mean that germs and viruses and stuff have bodies and stuff, which is a whole nother field of the paranormal here. What I saw was a demon. Now, have I seen it multiple times? No. Have I been on cases where they said, "I got a demon in my house, I got a demon in my house," and it turns out to be a squirrel in the attic? Absolutely. Have I seen people tell me, oh, I got a demon in my house, I got a demon in my house? No, it's a spirit that doesn't want you there because they don't know they're dead, and they can't cope with the fact that somebody else is living in their house. Have I seen a malicious spirit? Yes. Have I dealt with poltergeists and malicious entities such as this that people call malicious and evil and demonic? Yes. So I see where you're coming from as well.
Right. I've got a friend who he was a skeptic, lifelong skeptic. Interested in the subject, but didn't necessarily believe. He is a former military pilot, lives in Rome, Italy, but travels back and forth to the U.S. He's a commercial airline pilot now. He's not the type to fabricate a story, in my opinion. And told me about a shadow that he saw at his parents' house that completely obscured the light. And it was a shadow of a person in the kitchen. Now, Brian always carries concealed. And he's sitting on the couch and goes for his sidearm because there's something in the kitchen that's not supposed to be in the house. His parents were in another part of the house. He thought, here's somebody somehow stuck into the house. And as he's reaching for it, he realizes that it's a shadow. and it turned towards him. And he said, he believed, letting him know that it knew he was there, and then turned and walked through the wall and left. His dad has since seen it and verified the story. It's twice since New Year's, this thing has been seen. It's never been seen in the house before.
Now, somebody wanted to know, in our room here, we have a room that everybody wants to join us on Blog TV on Mondays. Do you have a demonologist or specialist in your group at all?
No, we don't. I have a friend who's an ordained minister, but he has yet to join us on an investigation.
Well, if you ever need any help, if you ever have cases where you think something's up, I'll be glad to review them. This is right up my alley. This and conspiracies is stuff I specialize in.
Really?
Yes, I love it.
You and I need to discuss some conspiracies.
Oh yes, that's a whole nother show. Is conspiracies. I could have I used to have a whole month of nothing but conspiracies, and I still wasn't done.
Yeah, go on my wall and just scroll through some of the things I have. You'll see real quick. I talked this case over with the guys, and I told him, I said, this is only twice in the entire month of January that this was seen. This isn't something we go and spend 4 or 5 hours in the middle of the night, hoping to catch again. This has been seen in the daytime. And it's not not a regular occurrence, but it happened, twice in the span of 30 days. Trying to predict and be there, to capture this thing again would still be monumental. I said what we need to do is set up the DVRs and just let them run. Let the family know not to be walking around in their underwear in the middle of the night. And then just go back through the
So
footage.
you've actually left your equipment at somebody's house? Because I have a really bad story about doing that. I have a really...
we haven't done that at their house yet. No, and we haven't left equipment at anybody else's for that matter. But for this situation, I would trust his parents as much as I would trust Brian. There's no problem at all. We could set our cameras up, and we've got night vision DVRs that record onto a hard drive. We can go back through the hard drive and watch in each camera, and if we see that, then we've got video of it. We've got something that we can examine, something that we can try and process, and at least show somebody else that might have a theory about it. Both times, it's in the kitchen. Its actions were the same. I can't remember exactly what the story his dad said was, but they weren't the same actions. So it's not a residual. If it's turning and noticing him, and he knows it's noticing him, then it's got some intelligence.
Now, when you say this thing was turning, did it turn like we do? I mean, an animal turns like a Bigfoot turns differently than a human being. Human beings are.
He got the impression this was an old man. Okay. He says it was all dark. The shadow was. There weren't any details that he could make out as far as clothing, but he had the feeling that it was an old man, and it turned towards him and looked at him, and then turned, walked through the table, and then walked through the wall. I asked him, I said, was there ever a door where he walked through? And Brian said, no. He said, not to my knowledge, there's ever been a door there. So if it's intelligent, it's able to walk through a table and walk through a wall, just for whatever reason. I've had people say, that there are travelers, there are wanderers, spirits that are here, but they're not locked to an item or location. They're moving about, from house to house or place to place. If it had been seen once, I could agree with that. That maybe there's something to that theory. But now it's been seen twice, so there's something in that kitchen, and it's decided to show itself to two separate people who were both skeptics. I don't.
I believe that spirits are like cats, like I'm allergic to cats. Any cat in the world will sit on my lap and stare at me, okay, because they want me to be allergic. If you're skeptic, and I've taken skeptic people to investigations many of times, and I swear to God they know they're skeptic. It's kind of like a cat knowing you're allergic to them. The thing will appear, you'll get EVP, you'll get sensors, you'll get anything.
Right.
I mean, I want somebody that's a skeptic all the time on my team so we can get stuff.
Yeah, and that's Kenny's role on the team. Kenny's a skeptic.
Now, there's a limit to being a skeptic. I don't want one of these skeptics, I don't believe it all, I don't believe all. When they see it, they scream, wet themselves, and run. I want a skeptic that's going to stand there and say, what is that shadow? The shadow could have been A, B, C, and D. It could have been a reflection. It could have been a manipulation of the environment. It could have been an unknown psychic thought projection. I want somebody astro traveling at misconnected, somebody that's time traveling at misconnected. I want somebody that's going to be actively being a skeptic and not just, I don't believe, and that's silly and crazy and stuff.
Right. And Kenny goes into it, and he'll tell people, I am a skeptic. I've never had an experience that made me change. Now, Kenny has been part of an experience before. Kenny and I were at Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, and it was a public hunt. But that place was so big, 40 people is what was there, maybe 50. You get lost. I mean, you don't run into other groups other than at break time. We were on the 4th floor.
Now, where's this place again for some people that are just joining us? Where?
Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum in Weston, West Virginia.
So it's an old psychiatric center, basically.
Yeah, it is the second largest hand-cut stone building in the world. The only hand-cut stone building larger than that is the Kremlin.
And the Kremlin's in Russia, right?
Right. The original footprint of Trans-Allegheny was a Civil War hospital also. The 4th floor in one ward is the only wooden floor in the building. The rest of them are all concrete. These floors are, 16 inches thick. This building is a big, solid, heavy building. So we're in this ward, and I do the old, I do that on the floor. I did it a couple times. Nothing. Then all of a sudden, the floor lights up like a parade full of drummers. It's not loud, but you can hear it. It's constant tapping, and it's coming from everywhere. I was like, every spirit on that floor squatted down and started tapping on the floor. It was surreal. Our tour guide is sitting directly across the hall from me. And she said, I'm hearing it in stereo. She said, because it's also coming from this room behind me where there was a grill for air to pass from the room into the hallway once the door was shut. And she was hearing it through that grill. So I get up, so he gets up. This poor little girl who was part of our group that they had just thrown in, scared to death, she gets up and walks with us as I walk into the room. And the three of us are now in there, and we can hear the knocking and realize it's coming from the direction of one of the closets. There were 4 closets in this room. And I pointed to it, motioned. I said, it's right there. Kenny agreed. He was hearing it from there also. I said, I'm going in. So I walk into the closet. I sit down, and I can feel the knocking and tell direction. It's from about a foot to my left is where it's at. As I put my hand on the floor, Kenny says, do you want me to shut the door? And I said, yeah, shut the door. So he shuts me in the door, and in the closet now. It's pitch black. I can feel the knocking with my hand. I can't feel anything knocking on my hand, but I feel it.
Now, this couldn't have been an animal on the wall or something from next door or something else.
Absolutely not. And like I said, these floors are I'm guessing, about 16 inches thick.
Wow.
The rest of the group is in the hallway.
What would you need a 16-inch thick floor for?
The size and mass of this building.
Oh.
Just for structural and strength purposes. You got to think, this isn't a steel frame building. This building was built in, I would say that ward was probably built very, very late 1800s, early 1900s. The timbers would have been larger to support, the concrete, and why this ward has a wooden floor, I don't know. The rest of the building has concrete floors.
Maybe it wasn't a ward. Maybe it was a special place. I mean, if you were to keep government officials or house or living quarters for personal people, maybe they wanted to,
It could have been. And like I said, there were 4 closets in this room. So, I don't know. I mean, the criminally insane, I wouldn't necessarily think needed closets, but, I think they were there.
Well, maybe this was a floor meant for criminally insane. Like, if the mayor of the city went criminally insane, you're not going to lock him up with the criminally insane from the bar. You're going to give him a nice place to live. And maybe it was just like an overnight type, like an outpatient type,
I don't know. We're actually, we're going back there the 23rd of this month. And I'll find out about that.
You got to keep me more information. If you guys are coming my way, maybe I'll hop on with you.
What Trans-Allegheny, there's 3 buildings on the site. There's a medical building, and I can't think what the third is. They've never opened up the medical building or this third for investigations, and they are doing that on the 23rd. 20 tickets was all they opened for it.
Oh, you got to buy tickets? I don't want to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to buy tickets for that stuff.
We're going to do the medical building.
Well, how much are the tickets?
They were 106.
Yeah, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a publicity stunt. I wouldn't even do a case like that.
I'll tell you what, if it wasn't what it was, and if I hadn't had the experiences that I had there, and I did have a few that night, and the fact.
Well, there's also a side of me that says, hell, I would do it. I'd go there. I would do it. So I don't know. I mean, I've spent $106 on like wrestling shows before. So.
Exactly, and we've gone to Waverly Hills, Bobby Mackey's.
What was that like? What was Bobby Mackey's like?
It was neat. I don't want to say anything negative about it. It's rumored to be one of the most haunted places in the East Coast, and we have caught things there before. We've got something we caught in a picture that we caught at an abandoned concrete plant where a town got washed away in a flash flood. I don't know what it was, but we've now caught it in 2 separate places. Bobby Mackey's is neat. There's a lot of history. Um, I it's a good place. I put it that way. I'm trying not to say, I'd like to go back to Bobby Mackey's and maybe give it a chance to really give us some evidence.
Well, I think whatever's there is gone. They've had quite a few people in there clearing stuff, so.
Yeah.
I think it was the atmosphere. I mean, if you own a building and the atmosphere is not good, and that's why psychiatric centers and hospitals are like that. The atmosphere just makes stuff there.
Exactly.
And may I suggest to you, when you do this psych center, in the hospital ward, ask if there's a demon there.
I will.
Test it. Now be careful, please. I don't want you going out there not knowing what you're doing, not believing, and God forbid this thing slams a stake through you or something. I've had one pick up, broken glass and heave it at me. Broke some glass on a church thing of holy water or whatever it was, and then heaved the stuff at me. So I
had been scratched before. And I was scratched at Bobby Mackey's.
Really? What do you think it was?
I didn't even realize it was happening until the next morning. I had 3 marks on my left forearm. They ran across my arm. And the only time that I can recall where I exposed my left arm, in such a manner that it could have been scratched was actually above the stage in the catwalk. They say is Johanna's area. And from everything I've heard about Johanna, she's not necessarily the type that's going to scratch somebody unless there's something about me she just didn't like. I don't know. Nothing else happened that could have put 3 scratches on my arm. So it happened there. And that's the only time I had my arm exposed, so that's the only time that I could think, that it would have. I'm not saying that is necessarily exactly where it happened and when it happened or why it happened. It was, the events that led to it. I will tell you this, though, getting back to the Trans-Allegheny. As I'm in the closet, and he shut the door, and the knocking is about a foot to my left. I can hear it. I can feel it on the floor. I hear everybody outside erupt in laughter. And it was like the punchline at a comedy club. There's 12 people out there in the hallway. There's 3 of us inside, maybe 7 or 8 people. And as soon as they start laughing, the knocking stops. And it didn't start again. So after a minute or so, I got up and I walked out of the closet and walked back outside. The group had, several of them had flashlights. There were a couple K2 meters, and they had them all sitting in front of them trying to do a flashlight and K2 session. And one of the women in the group had asked, "Are those guys crazy?" And they had sworn to me every flashlight and every K2 meter lit up at the same time and then shut off. And that's why they had it, once for yes, twice for no. And that's why everybody started laughing, was because everything they had said yes at the same time. That Kenny and I were absolutely nuts. And then shut off. I wish I could make stuff like that up. If I could, I would write fiction. Because that's I would like to have seen it. I wish somebody had a video camera going of it.
See, that's why I always have a video camera on me. I always have a video camera. I have it ready. I have it ready to go.
But you know what? If somebody had, it would have blued out. It would have shut off right before that. That's the way.
Well, there's ways to keep your camera on. Plug it in the wall. There's always a power source. Have extra batteries on you.
You know what? We go a lot of places where there's not power. We
How do you have power when there's not power?
batteries. Everything we have is battery.
See, that's why I'd travel with a big old carnival generator if I was that way.
Yeah, I would like to get to that point. We've discussed the possibility of.
I mean, I know where to get one, but
Yeah, the Northeast is absolutely full of them now.
yeah.
Just like Florida after a hurricane, you know. The weeks immediately after, you can't find a generator anywhere, but 6 months, a year later.
No, I don't mean the generators like those things. I mean a good old carnival generator, one that would last. You could pour water right over the generator, and it'll still work.
That would be pricey to move. That'd have to be.
Well, everybody knows my background, and I can get a carnival generator, right? But I'd have to do a lot of talking, and besides that, these places that don't have electricity, are they abandoned? Could there be bums? I mean, around here there was a bum found in one of the buildings. I mean, I've been on an investigation, and I think somebody was playing around downstairs. We didn't know it. We didn't, call law enforcement, but I could have sworn to death there was somebody in the building with us, and it wasn't one of our team. And it wasn't a property owner.
We do not trespass. Like I said, I was a cop for almost 5 years.
Oh, no, we had permission to go in this, but I think somebody else had come into the building.
And that's, that, I guess, is definitely inside the realm of possibility from time to time.
Either that or this spirit was awful busy and noisy.
I'll tell you what, I've been at my sister has a little block garage, a little 2-story concrete block garage that the upper floor at one time had been finished out, and there was a mentally retarded woman that was her little apartment. Family lived in the house, and they segregated her into this little apartment, by the way, back in the 30s, 40s.
This was in the 30s and 40s. I mean, today you could go to jail for that stuff.
Yeah, but that was the pretty much standard procedure for the mentally retarded back then. They were shunned. They were hidden away. There's a lot of them locked up in places like Trans-Allegheny for the insane, and they weren't insane. They were mentally retarded.
Well, back then we're dealing with between the 40s and 60s and maybe even into the early 70s. A lot of people did not understand. I mean, even today we have like schizophrenia and stuff that we have no idea how it really affects the person. Depression. What makes you depressed? You could have a happy person one day, the next day they're diagnosed with depression the rest of their lives. And the diseases that we have today, like that, back then they were not equipped for that. They could not handle it. The people did not even believe in some of this stuff. I mean, for instance, this is so horrible that to stop you from depression or from sadness or from schizophrenia, they would dump you in a bath of freezing cold water and leave you in it until you stopped yelling or having a fit. So the freezing cold water is making you scream, your heart pressure is going down. So basically, till you passed out from the throat and got frostbite, they would leave you in the thing.
Exactly. Or they'd stick you on a table and hook you up to God knows how many amps of electricity running through you.
Well, I know I have a good story to tell. I know a doctor that did that and electrocuted himself. So that's revenge on that.
Yeah, that's called karma.
Well, electrical shock therapy today is used to restart your brain. However, you lose everything after restarting, so why do it?
Right.
I mean, I worked in a psych center for a little bit. I, was in a program, and they had me up there in transportation and stuff, and I saw what went on. But I won't tell stories, but I know what I saw there compared to what maybe they did before that. To get to the point they're at of treatment today, what did they do to get to this point?
Exactly. It was the dark ages.
I mean,
people were embarrassed by, a family member that was mentally retarded. And they would find somewhere to just lock them out of the way.
Also, there was back then, there was a lot of people who wanted to be perfect. And if you had a mentally retarded person in your family, unfortunately, which it's not unfortunate to have a mentally retarded person in your family, I'm not saying it's bad, but back then,
right.
The idea was you were unfortunate and poor you and poor your family. Today, it's understood that you help them, there's programs, but back then, either it was poor you or, you have that person, your genes must not be perfect, you're awful. So you had to take the 50-50 chance of being awful to the community or being pitied by the community and having to deal with their BS about you and your family member.
Let me go one step further with that. Going back to Trans-Allegheny, the absolute criminally...
I think we lost him. I don't know what happened with the phone. We'll get him back up. What we're talking about is Jim Humphrey today. Hopefully he can return back on the phone. We had phone problems earlier, but we know that this is part of our stuff that goes on here. We're going to take a small break. We'll get him back on. We had phone problems earlier in the interview. I don't know what somebody's right. We have a room, www.blogtv/people/the paranormal world, every Monday at 7. This show is Mondays at 7 p.m. And throughout during the week, we also do other shows. We're going to try to get him back. But for right now, we're going to take a 2-minute break. So we'll be right back. All right, and we're back. We're here with our guest. We're here back with our good friend Jim Humphrey. Now, we were talking about doing these abandoned places without electricity and stuff. And what limitations do you have now with that? I mean, for instance, some of our limitations are if somebody doesn't want a plug in their wall, or one person had a horrible fit about using an extension plug in their wall, we would make their electricity bill go up. Is there any pros and cons to like doing it all on your own and not worrying about stuff like that?
You know what? Setting up and being able to run on battery, it frees up any of those things, but it also, it creates its own problems. We have a box just full of batteries. We stock up when we find them on sale, and we were talking yesterday evening about what batteries Ken prefers, what batteries Michael prefers. I prefer free ones as opposed to a brand, but we try to go with rechargeable batteries, and some of the equipment has it. Our video cameras, for example, I mean, those are rechargeable. I've got a digital thermometer. I'm a contractor, and I use that, as one of my contracting tools as well. But it's an 18-volt device, with a big 18-volt battery that I can plug into a charger. It's nice not having to worry about, unrolling an extension cord and rolling the extension cord back up when you're done. But there are times when that'd be, it would make things a lot easier. As far as limitations, we have yet to do an outside investigation.
Oh, you haven't done any outside investigations at all yet?
Not yet.
I thought that one center is outdoor investigation. It's property of the psychiatric center and everything else.
No.
Well, I'll tell you what. You really want to go on an adventure with no electricity, we'll take you up to Fallbrook in the middle of nowhere. And I mean the middle of nowhere. I think bears up here get insurance out, so if they get mosquito bites or something. I mean, some people laugh at us when I say the middle of nowhere, but I mean the middle of nowhere. If the place had any, if it was that winter, it'd be like Antarctica.
Holy cow! No thanks.
Yep, up in Mansfield, Pennsylvania. Look up Fallbrook Cemetery online. There's a lot of stuff on it. It's a pretty good story. Town. A witch was killed there. There is a tree. The bottom of the birch tree is all gone, and it's still standing, which I doubt that would even kill a birch tree because Native Americans used to take the birch off the tree and make boats with them. So,
right.
But yeah, we've gotten evidence every time we've gone. It's been a great trip, but it's out in the middle of nowhere, no electricity. I'm one of these freaks where I have to have a bathroom. I have to almost bring a bus RV with me to go. I'm one of these.
We've never done a cemetery.
Never.
Never. And there's a cemetery not a half mile from my house.
Well, getting into a cemetery we found is not the biggest thing in the world. We actually found out that they have to restrict some things because they can't tell people. Because the people that, to me, I don't care if you're walking around, the dead bodies under you. But I guess the family members, which we totally respect all the tombstones, we respect the people.
Right.
It's a total respect for the dead. It's a whole nother way of thinking. You're walking around in a cemetery and saying thank you to, a tombstone, but it's called, respect for the dead. But there's a whole nother field of this. Those people that put flowers on that grave, the family members, the friends, whoever they are, if they knew that we were running around in their family's graveyard, they would blow their stack. And no, I don't even know how cemeteries operate. You get no income. You pay once for the tombstone, and it has to last another 10 years. I don't know if they're tax exempt or what. But I would not want a family member coming in screaming at me, And people vandalize cemeteries as it is. So here you have a group of people coming in saying, I'm going to do a paranormal investigation. I'm after ghosts and stuff. And you're like, yeah, okay. They hang up on you. It's.
You know what my issue's always been? If it's a cemetery, the term laid to rest.
Yeah.
That's where the body is laid to rest. Now, whether the soul resides with the body or is still walking around the house they lived in, I don't know. But if the soul is laying at rest with the body, I don't want to go disturb it. That's been my apprehension to actually doing a full-on investigation. Now, preface that, I don't have a problem walking into a cemetery with a camera and shooting video or taking pictures. And I may carry a recorder just in case I hear, there's something said to me.
Yeah.
But as far as an active, setting up equipment and asking questions or trying to provoke or anything like that, no way. And I'm not going to say that nobody should do that. That's not my place to say. That's just my personal opinion. Once I'm laid to rest, I'm going to be in that cemetery anyway. I'm going to be having too much fun.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing. You can't really have fun I've never really had. A lot of people say it'd be fun to go investigate. It'd be fun, but no, it's
I
work
have
for me.
exactly. And last night, I can promise you, it was cold.
Now, watching the people that come with you in the cemetery and think they're big and bad run to the car or run and hide or sit down on the ground in a fetal position and sit up against a tree telling you they don't want to go any further. That's fun. That's fun. Yeah. I'll tell you a few stories about that, but
I do want to jump back because before that call dropped, we were talking about the dark ages, back 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago with mentally retarded and kind of the views that some people had. One of the things that Kenny found out, he got to West Virginia a day ahead. And he and his wife walked around the community, and we're talking to people about the building and seeing if there was anybody that maybe they could run across that had worked there. And they did. They found an old woman that was working in a grocery store that had been a nurse in that building in the 50s. And she said that when she started, there were approximately 100 cribs in the basement. And she never could understand why, because they were never used while she was there. So this changed. What I'm about to describe happened before the 50s. And they just hadn't gotten rid of the cribs at that point. The worst of the worst criminally insane men and the worst of the worst criminally insane women were kept on the same floor, on the same wing, and there was a hallway that separated the both sides. That is it. And it was not a guarded hallway. And back in the early part of the 20th century, pregnancies of criminally insane women were, I guess, prolific.
Now, this pregnancies was not done because they were just mentally retarded people at home and they got pregnant. This was because they was abusing them and doing all sorts
of other... This is because the criminally insane men had access to the criminally insane women.
Well, I'm talking staff abusing, clients.
I would imagine that happened as well.
I mean, I've heard of staff not feeding people because they didn't have enough staff, so they just left the physically fit and fat people alone and just fed the skinny ones.
Well,
I mean,
or left
the skinny and sick to die and then tended to the other ones.
And what we kind of came to the conclusion of, because the atmosphere at the time, if dad was criminally insane and mom was criminally insane and the baby was born, that baby had no chance of doing anything but absolutely ate up with criminal insanity.
Not always, but I mean, like 70% of the time.
That was the prevailing thought at the time. That baby would have been taken away from the mother and left to die.
I mean, I've seen two ugly parents make a beautiful child, so...
Absolutely.
However, I doubt that child would ever have a chance to become normal, even if it was born normal, because they would keep it at the facility.
And the rumor is that these babies were taken into the basement and left in those cribs that were down there, left to die, and then buried.
Well, I was told a different story. I was told they'd get rid of it before it was even born, but we won't go into that topic.
I think abortion wasn't 1930. I don't think that was a viable option at that point.
That stuff was around. They just didn't talk about that, because I've heard of many, many, many stories that have weird endings to them, of stuff that we did not think about, like how did doctors that were dealing with polio not contract the disease? How does somebody dealing with AIDS never touch it, even though you're handling material without gloves and safety?
Yeah, true.
There were cures, there were stuff there. There were, cures for AIDS and cancer and all this. You never see doctors die of this stuff.
Right.
It's just another thing to add to the conspiracy. But back to the subject here: would any of this contribute to a spirit, or even demons, for that matter, or jinn? We do talk about the Muslim faith of the jinn. Would that make these things more, or would the spirit actually go on? I mean, if you have a spirit of a baby is just born, I've never heard of, never had one, but and then you have adults that are criminally insane. My opinion is that spirit's pretty dangerous.
Right.
Or maybe just the opposite. You're showing it kindness, so now it's more attracted to you.
And that's the big if. In the end, I mean, you're dealing with a personality. I don't think our personality ends. I think it continues on, trapped in the living energy that makes up our bodies, and that some people call a soul.
Now, in any of these places you did investigate, here's a quick question from the room and myself that I'm wondering. Have you ever found evidence where you could solve a case that's open? I mean, like if somebody didn't know that a body disappeared and you guys stumble across a voice telling you they were murdered. I mean, it could be evidence against somebody for what happened there is that they murdered people in that room. That could change history, really.
And when we got to that point of the basement, I wandered off on my own and didn't get the hair standing up on my neck. Didn't get any of that. So I can't say that we've actually helped anything other than perpetuate a story or urban legend or whatever.
Because I often wonder if with this stuff, like it is, and like you go into a room and nobody knows what happened. Nobody really knows why there's a wooden floor in the room. Well, maybe it was because that was the doctor's living quarters, or maybe it was because they housed people and the wood made it so the noise was suppressed, or maybe they did weird operations and electrical experiments and they had to have wood for nailing stuff down and chains, or and then if you catch a spirit saying, oh yes, the wooden, I was chained to the wooden, you asked what happened, I was chained, and then the next EVP, wooden floor, and you figured out that that's what that room was for, and here you have your answer. Could that be used as evidence, or does anybody really care about that stuff? And the reason I ask you this is because I've been on cases where I've gotten EVPs or video or something saying something that could actually fill the plots of people thinking about what happened at that place. Or they say, well, murdered. Well, if somebody was murdered here, there may be an investigation that was open somewhere in time. However, I've never seen anybody interested.
Right. And that's just it. You're not going to get a cop, a detective, a sheriff. We have an EVP from a house, a different house in Wheelersburg, that said either I killed him or I killed them. You can't make out, if there's a TH in front of the last word or not.
Yeah.
We have that EVP. Let's just say it said I killed him. Who did he kill? Because we couldn't get an answer to that. When did he kill that person? Couldn't get an answer to that. Did he intend on killing that person? There's nothing we could get there. We couldn't find out if there had been a murder in the house. There had been, according to rumor, a couple children had disappeared from that house. The neighbors, they were there, and then they were gone. And nobody knew if they had moved or what happened to them. That would have been back in the 60s.
So what you're saying is you have full evidence that there was a murder case there and nobody cares.
We're not going to get any interest from it.
Yeah.
Detectives are overloaded today. At least I know in this county they are.
Well, I meant not necessarily a detective. I mean, but it could change history. This place, the psychiatric ward, you could say, well, this part was doing this and they were doing this. And if somebody says a name, maybe there's some family that doesn't know what happened to a family member and they can find out they were locked up. Or maybe they didn't know what happened to this section of the building. Oh, well, a fire started and some spirit says, played with fire. Maybe they set it on fire, and that could change the whole history of the place.
The house where my son was threatened, we've investigated. We've been to that house 5 times now. The top floor was burned out. There was an electrical fire. The family that lived there at the time, the kitchen had a fireplace, which is odd. But they had a fire going in the fireplace, and they had a small son who was 4 years old. And son comes running down the hall and into the kitchen and starts running towards the fireplace. And the mother was close enough to grab him, before he dove into a burning fire.
Yeah.
And the little boy said that he was following his friend. The obulus has said burn. It said fire. It said kitchen.
Well, right there, you could have like the mystery of what happened in the house. Something was started in the kitchen and it caught fire.
And the fire did start in the kitchen, and it was an electrical fire. The top floor is gutted. It's got exposed studs and exposed wiring there. All the drywall, most of it is. And
don't you see a danger in going into places where exposed wire is? I mean, that could be an electrical hazard.
The top floor shut off. The basement floor still has power.
Oh.
But I work in conditions like that.
That's right.
I don't necessarily go.
Well, one thing is working in it where you can put all the lights and every tools you need to work in there, and another is walking around in the dark with a flashlight and a video camera, hoping the wire doesn't fall down and it's on.
True.
I mean, you don't go in the dark in your business and try to put somebody's house together in the dark. Maybe you do. Maybe you're one of these, people that can fix your car while in the total darkness just by the feel of the, tools. I don't know.
No, I'm not the fond. But I've worked in conditions that were less than perfect. And, ghost hunting, you're not in a warm, cushy environment. You always have less than perfect scenarios.
Well, see, this is what people don't understand. They want to go and investigate and become paranormal investigators, like you said about Paranormal Unity. And they don't understand that you're going out in the middle of nowhere, not knowing what's going to happen to you, not even knowing what you're being told is the truth.
Right.
I mean, you have to literally go there on somebody else's opinion.
Right. Oh, and they sit at home on Friday night and watch Ghost Adventures or Taps or any of the other shows and think, oh, yeah, I could do that. And it's a little different.
Well, yeah, they can do that. They could run around with a bunch of 5 people behind them with a camera. They could run around the place in the middle of the dark and talk to a camera about what they're feeling. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I could do that too. However, Taps had a research team do some research. They were there They were there one day to find the stuff to see if the place was worth the show. They had a producers meeting for 4 hours. Then they had a crew meeting for 4 hours. Then they had a run through of what they were going to do. And then they had some other meetings. And then they actually did the show, which probably took 2 days with cutting and other stuff in it. and then they produced the product for 1 hour, which they took 3 days to make. That person sitting on the couch can walk through the house for 1 hour with a camera and an EVP meter, sure. But can they do all the rest?
Right, exactly. Last year, Michael thought that it would be nice because the only advertisement we do is word of mouth. We don't have an office or anything like that, or a yellow page number. I don't know if any paranormal groups it do, but I would imagine that somebody's thought about, hey, how do we get our name out? So about the same time I built the ghost page, Michael went to a print shop, and he had some vinyl lettering. It was Appalachian Afterlife, Paranormal Investigations. And then my cell phone number's on mine, Kenny's cell phone number's on his, Michael's cell phone number's on his. Michael put his on the back of his truck. I've got mine on the back of mine. We drive around and hope that somebody sees that and gives us a call and says, hey, I got coffee cups being thrown out.
Yeah. And a lot of people, what they don't understand is that even though you have business cards somewhere, somebody's going to be stupid, take them down and throw them away.
Exactly.
Or when we have a magazine, and people will take magazines and just throw them away at the end of the day that aren't used, and I'm like, right. That's how we get our business. Well, Michael's driving down the road, and a local TV station producer happens to be passing him, and she sees on the back of his truck, Appalachian Afterlife and Paranormal Investigations. And she pulls him over like a highway patrolman on the side of the road and walks back to his truck, and she said, do you have a TV show? And he says, no, we don't. She said, would you like one? Yeah, sure. So we have a half-hour TV show on a local station, local channel here in Frederick County. You guys should hook me up with a TV. That would be, hook me up with radio.
Right. We got it late last year. We have 4 episodes before the season ends. And they signed us again this year. We got a full season, so 13 episodes. That means 13.
Is there any way you could advertise our show on your show, and I'll advertise your group on my show, and we could?
Absolutely, I could do that.
That's networking. This is networking in its finest right here. Get out there.
Ours being local, I mean, it's Southern County. It's just 3 or 4 counties in southern Ohio and a couple counties in northern Texas. So, I mean, there's not a whole lot of viewing area. But absolutely, I got no problem with that. Well, anyway, Michael calls Kenny and
We're gonna have to stay. You're gonna have to friend me on Facebook if you haven't already, and stay
we're
in contact.
We agree. We'd love to do it, and that would help get more investigations. It puts our name out there. So Michael gets this video program, and he puts it on his computer, and we start, looking for places to hunt. Leanne, who set this up between you and I, she's got a house next to hers that her family owns. It's the first episode. And we went in.
Yeah, Leanne's a really, really cool person. She's helping me find guests and everything.
Right. I owe Leanne a lot, and I know I do. We go in and we do our investigation, and we film everything, and we take all that footage, and we start compiling the footage, and then we had to film an introduction.
And then you cut out a bunch of stuff, like people like me waving at the camera and stuff.
we get everything put together and get that first episode done.
We had that happen for our local public access show.
Right.
It's another show that I worked on, not even paranormal, but a friend of mine did it. And we were talking in the bar, and somebody came up and waved at us, and we're like, just leave it in, screw it. You know? But people will do that. People will be stupid and do that.
Exactly. Our intro we shot next to the biggest cemetery in Portsmouth. You know, as we're driving by.
Oh, shoot the promo for your show, but don't ever investigate the place. That's.
I know. Exactly.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I operate with inconsistencies like that.
You'll probably be the one running and screaming in the cemetery when you find something.
Well, you never know. I mean, I could slow the footage down and may have caught a phantom or two. Well, anyway.
I got some footage of a cemetery if you want it for your show.
Do what?
From footage of stuff at a cemetery if you want it for your show. I've got real footage of stuff. I don't, you know, that's another thing. People say you fake stuff. Why? We get real stuff.
Exactly.
It's better than the fake stuff.
Right. If you fake it.
Well, that's a rumor that some of these shows are faking stuff now. Like I know that some of the shows, I won't say any names because I want them to be protected.
Yeah,
but I know being in show business that the producer says, well, when you find something, make a big deal about it. Like me and you would be like, a light at the end of the hall? Okay, no. Oh, my God, and run down to the hall with your flashlights and look for it, you know? Or maybe they'll make a big deal about something that's very small, like footsteps or something. But it's amped up.
I had people on Facebook, you know, and paranormal friends, really just absolutely ragging Zach Bagans.
Well, Zach is not. He's not faking. That's three guys that go in there, and all their footage is each other's camera, and they only have a sound guy that review it to make sure what they heard is right, so they can use it on the show. Kind of like you looking at my evidence, saying, "Okay, you're right, use it."
Exactly, and they've got resources. They can take an EVP to an EVP specialist because none of those three are EVP specialists.
Well, I don't even think the guy's I don't think there is a title of EVP specialist. The guy is a sound, you know, he looks at sound and, you know, for anything. You could have the sound of an animal you want put in a movie. He'll look at it. He'll, you know, see it's like a sound engineer or something the guy is.
Right. Their show is, it's raw, I guess would be a good word.
It's more than raw. Raw is taps. They go in there and they do it. Like Bigfoot hunters, that Bigfoot show there is raw. These guys are more than raw. They have no idea what's going to happen to them.
Exactly. And
they go through the building the night before, I was told, and they look for stuff to see if it's safety because the producer wants them to be safe. They don't want anything happening to the equipment. They don't want to damage, which is sensible. And then when they actually do the investigation, it might be 2 nights too. It might be a lockdown to midnight, and then the next night they do it again. But they don't know what is going to happen.
Exactly.
It's not like taps where they're there for 3 days and they've actually done it once to see if they could find it, and then they did it again, and it's a lot of show. It's not rehearsed, but it's almost like, you know, making sure you know what you're doing for the camera. I mean, you guys have a show. Your producer could come to you and say, you know what, Jim, I want you to get scared and run from the next noise you hear. It's really big. And your EVP, make a big deal about it and run to your friend and tell him. Don't walk up to him after you're done. Just do it right then and there. And if you said no, she could say, well, then that's what we need for the ratings.
Exactly.
Now, you're not faking the evidence. You actually caught a voice on the EVP. But instead of waiting to the end of the session that you had maybe for 20, 25 minutes, you ran right then and there to him in the truck and told him, and you ran back into the building to see if you could get it again.
Right. The show isn't necessarily about the evidence. That's not what makes the the money for the network.
Well, that's the only reason I'm watching them. So why I'm watching them
the only reason you're watching them is because of that. But those commercials that air in between the segments are why the network has that show on. It's for those commercials, and so they can sell those spots. The more people that watch that show are seeing those commercials, and the way you get people to watch that show is you have the overboard personality.
Well, that's why I like radio. You're here to hear my voice, and you as a guest. You're not here to hear me talk about this hot dog stand downtown that I'm supposed to talk about now. This internet food thing this guy wants me to talk about that I haven't talked about in 3 weeks. He'll probably stop that.
I don't know, man. Outdoor hot dog stand would have been nice today.
Well,
during
the summer, if I walk up to him, he'll give me free food if I talked about him. He also has an online candy thing or whatever they do with food and stuff, and steaks and stuff like Omaha steaks or whatever it is. But it's so I get a free hot dog if I see him. See, that's all I get as I get fed for. But the guy's a really good guy, and he helps me out. He put a big sign on the side of his thing there. So, I mean, people walk up, say, "Oh, what's that?" He can talk about me, and then, I talk, it's I call it trading. I like the barter system. I don't like the money system because our money means nothing, which...
Absolutely.
But, however, if I help you, you help me, we both succeed. He succeeds by getting customers. He succeeds by getting people going to his online business. And I succeed because if I'm downtown at all, which I don't even go down there anymore, I get a free hot dog.
There you go. How the world goes around.
I still have to pay for a soda and chips, so maybe I'll work on that this year.
Yeah, maybe you need to find a Ferrari dealership.
Well, the thing about sponsors, I'll tell you what. I had a sponsor on here, and somebody on Facebook decided to act up. Everybody knows the story. And the sponsor said, "Screw you," and that was the end of that. And I also found that sponsors will say, "I want to be this, I want this, I want to be mentioned every 20 minutes, I want this, I want that." They'll hand me something that's professionally made. I can't play it on here because there's copyright, so I can't play it. Well, okay, that's all we have. Bye. Well, okay. So I'll make my own stuff, and I'll tell people about stuff. And then they'll be like, "Well, your audience is like 80% in, outside the U.S. Well, you're getting international business. What are you complaining about?
Yeah.
They want to pay $400 for something that costs $5 to ship in the U.S. Let them do it.
Exactly.
And I've even had that, too. One person wanted me to advertise their European website, which I did. But that was kind of awkward because, the site's all in, I think it was all in French or something. It wasn't in English.
Right.
But it was a European site. I think Italian or something. But, I did it for the guy, and he helped me by telling people in his area, in his online groups that he joins just for his country and Europe. And he has a wonderful show on Blog TV. I haven't seen him up recently. He did have them. But that was kind of awkward, too, because then, people would come into the show from Italy and France and stuff. And, but I've gotten used to it. I like having the world audience. It's something that nobody else has. But you also have to offer in the TV business, you have to offer something somebody else isn't watching.
Exactly.
If they're watching Taps walk around in an opera house, you better do the mixed martial arts place downtown or there's no competition. Although you're very small, right? I mean, your show is like an hour network show. It's not like something you're going to find worldwide, right?
Right. It's a half hour. But they can find them on our website.
Yeah, but what I meant is I would actually have to be in that city to turn on the channel and watch your show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the bad thing about it.
Is that you making that noise?
Yeah, sorry about that.
Well, I don't know if it's somebody trying to listen in on our chat room or not.
No.
Maybe it's a ghost.
had to.
That's another thing I want to ask you. You're into the kind of stuff like I'm into. What do you think of the terminology of spirit, ghost, entities? I mean, sometimes I just get really, really upset with people. I want to see a ghost, and no, it's the spirit of a person. If you see one, it'll change your life, you know.
I told you earlier, I don't use I don't use the term portal. I try not to.
Well, I want to see evidence of a portal first. No one's ever shown me evidence of this thing. It's not like Dungeons and Dragons where a wizard holds his hand up and a big purple circle appears in the middle of, you know, where you're standing and something comes through. What are you talking about, portal, you know?
That house in Wheelersburg, and I'm going to call it the Jarrell house because that's the street it was on, where my son was threatened to have seen the lights shoot up in the basement, where the fire was, you know, a little boy running into the lit fireplace.
Yeah. This
is all the same place. Michael was downstairs. We have an e-speaker that.
And what is an e-speaker for everybody that's not familiar with the term here?
It's a microphone that picks up the electromagnetic field that's not audible to our ears.
So it's kind of like what? So it's kind of like, you know, holding up a parabolic to an elephant and listening to its sounds when we can't hear them.
Sort of, or a sonar, you know, underwater and being able to pick up whales and dolphins that are miles and miles and miles away that you can't hear when you go underwater, you know, with your ears. This device operates on the theory that EVPs are transmitted, are being spoken in the electromagnetic field. So the microphone only picks up that field, and it goes into the amplifier, and the amplifier plays it then through a regular...
Well, how much would something like this be to get?
Online, I think digital.com, I think they're the ones that carry it.
No, I mean, how much? I mean, if someone said, I want that, how much are they going to be, money are they going to be taking out of their wallet for it?
I think about $40.
Wow. That's pretty reasonable, isn't it? $30, $40?
Right. And what you have is basically a voice recorder that doesn't have recording capability. I can, but you're not going to pick up any human voice on it. That's the good thing about it. You know, it's not like you can automatically say, and you can still hook this up to a recorder and record that field. And if you get an EVP, you can guarantee it's not a human voice because our voices don't transmit in the electromagnetic field. And that's the good thing about it. I mean, it isolates that out. It automatically debunks the possibility that it's a whisper. So we have this equipment downstairs in that house in one part of the basement. Michael has his K2 meter in another part of the basement. I'm up at the other end of the house on the main floor with my K2 meter. My K2 meter spikes to the red and stays to the red. And just as it does that, Michael, I hear him scream, "Oh my God!" And I can hear the e-speaker screaming, you know, this is loud hiss.
Well, that could have been the electric energy from his feelings being broadcasted into the air.
I don't think so.
I mean, well, I'm thinking skeptically right now for our audience, listening to what you're saying. However, I do know what you're talking about. It would not be because he would have to, you know, his body would have to be at that level. And if he's sitting there talking to you, he's not at that level.
Right. I can't set off a K2 meter by putting it up against my skin.
Oh, my mom can. My mom can take an EMF meter and the whole thing will just buzz off the handles sometimes.
Are you serious?
Yes. And we have a friend, Mr. Dr. Gary Thompson, who can take an EMF meter any of these meters you find, and you might as well just close your ears because it's going to do a skreek. The only thing I've heard of a skreek this loud is a bird being hit by a bus. That's how loud that skreek is, and he can't touch him. He, when we first started, he went with us on our investigations and stuff. He's really busy with the things he does now, but at first we took him along on some of the cases, and he couldn't get near any of the equipment. He can also touch a camera, and the thing will start having buzzing noises in it. I think it's because he's so into meditation and so into the things he's into and the science he does because of his doctorate and everything, that he is at a level with his body that's in tune to things that are not ordinary people are in tune with, and they affect the equipment. Now, yeah, I know a guy who also can pick up my ghost box and talk, or look at the ghost box, and whatever he's thinking will come through it. Now, that is the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life, and it's kind of funny because that kind of maybe proves to me that it's on a frequency level. Also, I know a girl that cannot use a thermometer, the infrared thermometer. It'll always read 0 on her temperature whenever she's holding it or anything. But these people are into different things. They're, she's into medication and astral travel and all this. So maybe their bodies have become at a different level where, science speaking wise, they're at a level where their bodies are in tune to stuff and they can't use this equipment.
Right. In the end, that's all we are is an energy field.
Well, Albert Einstein said if we used 100% of our brain, we would be nothing but a pure energy source.
Right.
So,
Okay, well, then, his K2 meter is what caused him to react. Getting back to Michael.
Yeah.
His K2 meter pegged on all the way to the red at the same time. And at that time, the E speaker started screeching very loudly.
Yeah.
Like I said, I am 40 feet away, roughly, 40 linear feet from where Michael is. And
what do you mean by linear feet? You mean like...
Well, because it was diagonal. He's in the basement. I'm upstairs. So, straight line going from, one floor to another.
Yeah.
I'm diagonally 40 feet from him. Both of them, like I said, everything went to the red electromagnetic for about 10 seconds, and then it all went back to the green. And we've discussed that after it happened. Unfortunately, we didn't have any way to record it at that point. We saw what I'm going to say was a low-level electromagnetic pulse. The same kind of pulse that, when they say an atomic bomb goes off that kills all the electric. That's an EM pulse. It didn't kill any of our equipment, so I know it wasn't of a massive scale, but it registered.
When you say you saw this, you actually visually saw it, or you saw it by instruments and scientific data?
We saw it by instruments and scientific data.
Okay. Because I was going to say, if you see one of those things with your eyes, you're doing pretty good. Because I think one time in my entire life, I've seen an electrical discharge, and it was on a wire. It sparked at the end, and like this green haze came out from it, and that was it.
I saw that once in a thunderstorm with an old corded telephone.
Really?
The lightning hit the telephone line, ran down the line, burnt all the nails on the side of the house, where the siding was nailed, that followed the telephone line into the house, and it blew the handset off of the phone. It chunked in the air and, onto the ground. And it was an amazing sight to see.
So it is true that you can't take a shower and be on the phone during a thunderstorm.
I wouldn't.
And Well, and hopefully people have common sense to know you're not standing in the shower on the phone in the thunderstorm. But I meant if you have your phone up to your ear and you get hit, you get electrocuted. If the house gets hit with the water, it'll get electrocuted.
I'll tell you what, anyone who has been on that phone and that lightning hit, it would have had to have killed him. Absolutely. There was, for that much current to knock the phone off of the base. This is an old, hey, if your viewers are 16 years old or younger, they don't have a clue what I'm talking about. But if they're my age, it's the phones we grew up with the old dial and
Oh, you mean the Mickey Mouse one?
Yeah, exactly. It threw it all.
I'm so old. I remember a phone where they had a little dial and you had to ring it around. If you weren't quick enough, your fingernail would snap right off at the top.
Yeah, exactly.
I wish they had one of those old ones like they had in radio where it had the button in the top of it you could hang up. These days, the phone, you hang it up, it's not hung up. Then you knew it was hung up when you slammed it down.
Yeah, and the other person can hear you slam it down.
Yeah, really. And it wasn't attached to my hip all day, so I can be found anywhere I am.
Right.
And people had common sense. If the phone just kept ringing, they would call you later.
Exactly. I didn't grow up with voicemail.
No, even an answering machine. If you weren't there, they would call you later, knowing you were either out or in the bathroom or wanted to be left alone.
Right. What we witnessed that night was something that caused electromagnetic readings at a great distance to max out. I don't know what it was, but other people have said, as I described it to them, they said, "Oh, you witnessed a portal opening up and then closing." And when it opened, there was just this massive increase of electromagnetic energy. And when it closed, that energy stopped. I'm not going to dismiss that. I don't know. We've gone back to that house. Like I said, we've been there 5 times now. And tried to catch that again. But just like trying to catch, the shadow at my friend Brian's house, it was such a random occurrence. I can't guarantee that it would ever happen again.
Yeah.
But, it's... You deal with conspiracies. I deal heavily. I hate to say it with them.
Well, you're in the construction business, so.
Yeah, exactly. And I've got a little bit of insight into some of the things I've seen.
Well, here's a conspiracy really quick that you can look up tomorrow, and it's going to shock you. If copper is a way for satellites to better influence themselves, and for one they say it's for protection, the other one say it's a draw, why are houses all full of copper on the outside and inside?
I don't know.
Think about it. If it's for satellites to draw on, in other words, they can draw to it quicker, every single house in this world can be looked into. If it's there to protect us from that stuff and radiation, then how much stuff is out there that's harming our bodies that we have to have our house protected from?
No, I don't believe it's copper's not there to protect anything. I know it's not the best electrical conductor. The best electrical conductor would be way too expensive to wire a house with, and that's gold.
Well, for some people.
I don't know. But I do know, with a conspiracy theory, once you have a fact, it is no longer a conspiracy theory. Once you have one fact, then you have a plausible conspiracy. In the supernatural realm, what what we caught that night was a fact. Now, I don't know, again, I don't like using the word portal. I don't know if indeed that's what it was or not, but it is plausible, so I don't dismiss it. And I've seen enough in that house. Man, that house is worthy of a book, honestly. From the experiences that we've either shared or had individually in it. And it's an unassuming brick ranch house on the outside. I mean, there's nothing really scary aside from some smoke damage on the porch. That's it.
Now, could fire attract something like water? I mean, if speaking, you could turn on the sprinklers in a building and say, could a spirit please appear? And if your cameras were covered so they didn't get wet, you could see it walking through the water.
Really?
Yeah, that's
You
another.
know what? I think running water and limestone, I know attract the energy that is theorized that the spirits are made of.
Well, we're talking running water as in pure water. If you're going to run your shower, what I just said about the sprinklers, it would be like a mirror effect for the spirit. The oxygen in the water would ignite the electricity, making the thing appear. However, what you're talking about is running water over a waterfall and asking something to come through a portal or something, which I'm like you. I don't believe in this dimensions or portals. However, I have seen stuff. I've seen a cloud, a puff of smoke, and something jump that was not there before. So either it turned into a puff of smoke and then jumped in body form, or it came through what the puff of smoke was.
My sister's, I told you she had a garage with a second floor that they kept a retarded woman in back in the 50s. I've been at Tracy's house by myself and was in the garage on the lower level. The door to that upstairs is locked, had a padlock on it. And I've heard something being dragged from the back to the front. I've done an investigation by myself in that building.
Have you ever been in that room?
Yeah. I went up there and actually had a flashlight session that lasted about 4 hours. And I even took a break in the middle of it and went back out and picked it right up where it ended.
See, I would love to do something like that. I would love to explore these places because I've actually worked. We had one case where the person believed there were demons in their house, and she got it from church members coming over. And I like a case where I can dive in it, mystery, and it's in my field. It's like, a veterinarian getting a case where they have to look at the animals,
Right.
So I got kind of involved in it, and we found out that it was really the pipes and the water in the pipes. However, there was something in the basement we were not sure of. I don't know if it was a shadow person or a demon, but we left it alone.
I want to ask you something.
I didn't ask it to get out of the house, but I had a good feeling that it's not there to bother. But the demon, I told it myself. I said, "Leave. You have no right being here. Nobody knows how you got here." But it's not like I exorcised the place.
Exactly, and that's.
But she wasn't bothered by anything anymore. So whatever we did, I mean, I've been to a lot of cases like that where we'll come in and we'll do an investigation and they won't be bothered anymore. Is that because of the simple fact that the whatever it was didn't it's settled? I mean, like if you have a bad child and you go up there and tell them knock it off, they settle down, or is it because whatever happened, or because we actually had a good effect on it? I don't know, because I've never had a case where I've actually gone back and had to do something because we didn't have something happen or they were not pleased.
Right.
And I'm so sure of myself I'll never have that. I just won't do it. I'm good at what I do, and that's the way I am, and I'm not going to sit there and have a place tell me that is wrong. It's like you're not going to go in there as a contractor and say, well, whoops, we did the plumbing wrong, let's rip out the walls. You're going to do it right the first time and not have any issues.
Right, exactly.
Now, I have gone back, like Fallbrook's kind of like an anniversary, to see if we could get any more. Has anything changed? Has the house changed? If there's new owners, we had a house where new owners came in and they complained about stuff, so we went there. And it was totally different. It was a female voice, not a male. And nothing was thrown at us, but they said it was. When the first time, all it was chairs being tipped over. The table was tipped over, which I don't know how that's possible when they had two dogs the size of Labrador Retrievers that are mixed mutts. But we won't go into that side of the story. Because I have always said, if you want a challenge, go sit down with somebody at a table that has a problem in their house that's paranormal, and you'll see the real side of society. The public is one of the hardest things to work with. The case is easy. It's dealing with the person, and I joke about this. It's pretty funny, but it's the truth. If somebody sees a banjo playing leprechaun at the top of their stairs singing jingle bells, and you walk in there and there's no banjo playing leprechaun at the top of the stairs, they're going to think you're crazy.
Exactly.
When this banjo playing leprechaun is a figment of their imagination.
It's all perspective.
But then again, I've gone in a case where they said, oh, there's nothing here, but if you want to come in, you can. And we get there, and it's demon-filled and horrible. I mean, the place was full of stuff, and they said it wasn't.
I wonder if there are spirits, ghosts, whatever, that follow certain people or follow everybody. If what American culture or belief has come to accept as guardian angels, if that's not just familiar spirits, that are following family members, or and maybe they one of these ones that are following certain people have a problem with a certain person, and throw a coffee cup. I don't know.
Well, I've seen demons that have followed people, perfectly good people and perfectly evil people, had none of them around them.
I had an experience happen to me.
I mean, you're not going to find a pagan witch running around with 12 demons behind her, And
true.
then again, you're going to find a little old Miss Molly who's in the front row of the church every day, every Sunday, and a good person, have hundreds of her,
I think Miss Molly is afraid of that, and getting back to filling the atmosphere with her energy, maybe attracting, what it is she's afraid of.
And I don't mean to make fun of any pagans or something, but a lot of
No, the pagan witch isn't that she's not necessarily going to be afraid of the thing.
Yeah.
And consequently not drawing those things. And that's where Kenny and I were at in our discussion. Sorry about that. I go places by myself. I'll walk into a basement that has 200 or 100 cribs. I'll sit in a closet where there's knocking going on. I'm not afraid of it. I'll hear my fans rattle, and I'll say, hey, knock it off. Bedtime. Kenny will do the same things. And we're not feeding the atmosphere, so consequently we're not drawing the evidence that we were hoping to catch.
Well, see, I've gone into a place where they said absolutely nothing's there, absolutely nothing's here. And there was things there. I've gone in a place where they swore up and down. Oh, they had stuff. They swore it. The lady even got into tears saying she does, and she wants to play Certified Haunted, and all of this and everything else. And we get there, and the only thing that we could see making noises are squirrels in the attic.
Right.
And then she said they came from another dimension to leave them alone and don't take them away. So, I mean... I don't know if you've had any of those cases where you get there and you're like, why did we do this? If we knew this, we wouldn't have done it. And then had a case where we get there and it's like, you know what? I'm sorry we did it. This is too much work.
I gotta tell you this little story. I had my sister-in-law and her husband had bought a house in Shelley Village, right outside of Gatlinburg. And the realtor that sold him the house said, hey, if you know the right contractor, he could build a second floor underneath this house. The crawl space is that big. It was a big cave area. I mean, it wasn't a literal cave, but it was this mammoth amount of room. And I went down and I drew it out, took a bunch of measurements, and they started paying for stuff. I went down and started building stuff. Put a floor in, put a set of stairs going down to the door to the crawl space on the outside so I could get material in. Then build a set of steps inside so I could reach the lower floor from the inside of the house. And was framing walls. I was the only one working. I was the only one down there, and I worked about 80 hours a week. And I'm framing walls one day, and I've got a half-load nail gun, and shooting the nails in. But every now and then they don't set all the way, and you got to drive it the rest of the way with your hammer, which I carried in my tool belt. And then working, and decided it was time to eat lunch. So I set my nail gun down and set my tool pouch, take it off. I go back upstairs, make me a little frozen pizza. Ate the pizza. And one of the things that happened almost regularly in this house was the smell of a pipe tobacco that my grandfather used to smoke. And I remember, it's one of those things, how smells, you instantly attach a memory to it, to certain smells.
Yeah.
That smell would overpower wherever I was in the house. And it would last for 15, maybe 20 seconds. And then it was gone. And it would happen once every week and a half, maybe 2 weeks. Not regular, but kind of at about that interval. And I'm upstairs that day making my pizza, and that apple pipe tobacco smell just wafts over me. And it was comforting because it was a smell that I recognized. Now, my grandfather had never been to that house, and maybe somebody had been to that house, but it had been a rental forever, so I don't know. I get done with my pizza, I go downstairs, I put my tool belt back on, and I start, building more walls. I get to another nail that I need to drive in, and I go to pull my hammer out of my hammer ring in my tool belt, and it's not there. And I looked everywhere. I looked all over that basement. I went back upstairs. I looked in the refrigerator. I looked in the freezer. I looked on the counter. Besides, where did I leave this hammer? I couldn't find it anywhere. I had to go to Lowe's, and went ahead and got more material anyway, but I got a hammer and brought back up because this hammer that I'd had that morning was gone. It had vanished. In that 6 months, and I was there 6 months building, I had this big tub that I kept extra stuff in. I just kept throwing stuff in, but it was a tub that I brought down with me for tools that weren't in cases. And one of those things I brought down was a roofing nailer that I never ended up using, but I thought if something happens to the roof, I want to have it with me. I don't want to have to go buy one. 6 months there, I had never touched that roofing nailer. But I'm going through this bucket, this big tub, sorting through, what am I going to throw away, what am I going to take home, because I was only going to make one trip. And I picked up that roofing nailer, and underneath it's my hammer that had disappeared on me that morning.
And it wasn't under it before?
I hadn't been that deep into that box, into that tub. This is a 1.5 foot tall, 4 foot wide, 2 foot deep, 5-6 tote, yes.
So how would you get a hammer in the bottom of it if you weren't in it?
Yeah, exactly. I didn't do it, and there was nobody else in that house.
And then my second question is, why are you driving nails in the wall when you have screws?
Because nails are cheaper.
No.
Well, it's a fast-load coil nailer, is one item. All I got to do is, and it's gas-activated with a trigger and a little internal combustion engine, basically. It shoots a spark, and a piston drives the nail into the wall or into the wood. But like I said, something took that hammer for whatever reason and put it up, and it disappeared on me. And why that, when nothing else even remotely paranormal happened the entire 6 months I was there, other than that smell that would appear out of nowhere that was the same pipe tobacco my grandfather had. Now,
Yeah, well, anybody in the world could have it if it's on the market. I mean,
absolutely.
anybody could have a vanilla cherry pipe tobacco as long as they sell it at the store. Now, if this is something that, I mean, like they don't, make Red Man Indian chewing tobacco in silver tin cans anymore. So if you had a silver can of chewing tobacco laying around and then smelled chewing tobacco, then you know that, or if they had a flavor of pipe perfume or pipe tobacco that was
done away
only
with
then at that time and they discontinued it like 50 years ago, then there's something. And then even somebody could still have the perfume. I mean, my mom has a bottle of perfume she had as a teenager. Well,
right. And those things, those are all plausible things, but again, where did that smell come from?
And I'm sure you're not smoking around all those building materials. And if you are, it's not a pipe. I mean, a pipe is...
Absolutely.
I mean, you'd have to do work to smoke a pipe, right? I mean,
right.
You can work and do it, but the ashes could fly around and...
Exactly, and I don't smoke a pipe, so...
Well, a pipe is a relaxful thing you smoke. It's not something you smoke while you work. You could do it. I've done it, but still.
Exactly.
I mean, a pipe of tobacco, you have to push the tobacco in. Then when it burns out, you got to relight it, and then you got to redo it, and then...
It becomes a lot of work for something to really enjoy.
You could, hang one board of wall and then realize it's out. You got to pack it and light it again, and then you got to do that, You might as well just light a cigarette and go down 3-4 boards.
Exactly.
And then again, pipe tobacco and stuff is not made like it was then. Then they actually took apple pears and dried them out and chopped them up and put them in the tobacco. Now I think it's more of a flavoring and scent than it is an actual product. Right. Maybe it was something that was comforting to you that you thought of in your head.
I don't know. I mean, it could have been an imaginary smell because there was never anybody the realtor that had sold the house. He and I became friends. He would come by every now and then, check on me, and try and convince me to move down there and go to work for him. But which I thought very serious about.
Well, then you could have gotten a free house out of the deal.
That'd be nice. But he doesn't smoke, and he never smelled it. So maybe it was one of those things, if I'm hearing the EVP in the headset that's not being picked up on the recorder, who's to say I'm not hearing it in my ear and it's not coming from the headset at all?
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, right now I got headphones on. Somebody walked in this room and talked. I could still hear him. But it's not going to be picked up in this microphone. I guarantee you that.
Right. So is it a smell that I was somehow manufacturing in myself?
You have to focus to imagine a smell. There's only 2 smells. One is shit and one is beer that I can think of that you can smell just by thinking about it.
Exactly. And his pipe tobacco is something that I had.
There is one other, but I doubt it. It's that caulking stuff you put in between tiles of your bathroom. But I doubt anybody, unless they're like yourself, would know the smell of tile, placement material like caulking and all that stuff. And Play-Doh. Play-Doh's another smell, but I doubt as an adult we go around sniffing Play-Doh.
No, but now that you say that, I know.
See that?
Yeah.
Now you're smelling Play-Doh.
But it's different because you're suggesting a smell to me that I'm familiar with, and I know that smell, and I can imagine that smell. But this I wasn't imagining. I could draw it in with my nose, and there was more of it. I can't take a breath in with my nose and smell Play-Doh right now because I'm having to. It's coming.
I can, but then again, my daughter's 4 years old, and I have that stuff stuck in the pillows. We had that stuff stuck in the curtains.
Right.
All over the table. And drinking
blue,
glasses.
Green, and yellow pucks that end up in the carpet.
The only place my daughter did not put Play-Doh is in the frying pan that I cooked the shrimp and steak in.
They got Legos for little girls now. They're pink and white and yellow.
They always had those.
Did they? I never knew that. I got an 8-year-old daughter that's all of a sudden into Legos, and a 10-year-old son that's been into Legos. And
what are you supposed to build animals like pigs and dragons and fairies and stuff with the Legos? They only got like 10 pieces of Legos anyways.
I don't know. He got some Star Wars Lego stuff for Christmas.
Well, don't tell me that. I'm going to take them now.
They're intricate. I mean, they are intricate. And he got so aggravated trying to build this.
I went to Playmobil. I couldn't handle Legos because of my anger problem. So I went to Playmobil. It's already put together. Everything's there.
Right.
Everything's fine, and I don't have to worry about a damn thing.
Uh-huh.
And I don't have to put something together and then find out the piece is wrong, or they only would include one piece and then kick the thing down the hall and the whole thing breaks.
Right, exactly.
Or in his case, maybe throw it at his sister or something.
You step on a piece barefoot while you're going to the bathroom in the middle of the night. That is such a treat.
Well, why do you think they're laid out? You're not supposed to be anywhere near the bathroom in the middle of the night.
They end up there. And I think it's ghosts.
These people want to go for gun laws. I say just dump a few Legos around. The person's never going to make it in your house. Frick the gun. I could hurt them with my bare hands. Screw that. Throw Legos on the frickin' floor. Even stepping on them with a shoe. Step on one of those little long pieces with your shoe and see if you don't twist your ankle.
Uh-huh.
Let's leave a whole frickin' set of Star Wars or whatever Lego things all put together on the floor by the door. When the person comes in the door breaking in, he'll step in and twist his ankle and scream in pain and later till the cops come and get him.
Exactly, just throw marbles on the floor. I'm sorry, somebody comes through my front door, they will scream a very brief scream.
Why? You got a snake sitting there?
No, I have a 45 with hollow points.
All right, I'll tell you what. How long does it take for you to load that gun?
Do what?
How long does it take to load that gun? You put that bullet out. In New York, you're not supposed to have a loaded gun, so you have to have the bullet at least 12 inches away from the gun. Go 12 inches to get the bullet, put it in the gun. That's 1 minute. Get that gun cocked, ready to go. That's about maybe 2-3 minutes you got right there, right? By the time you get up to aim at them, take aim, take shot, do it, it's about 5 minutes. I could get up and swing my fist harder than that. In 2 minutes, have that person down. Now you tell me what weapon's better, my bare hands or that gun?
I'll tell you what.
But I don't know in Ohio if you have the same law we do. In New York State, if they break into my house and I don't kill them, I can go to jail for assaulting them.
Right. We don't have a fascist governor in our state. You guys do. I don't know how our governor feels about
and then in court, I have to prove that I have never invited them in. And this is the new thing about this. If I invited them over to my house as a friend 5 years ago, and I still live in the same place, well, the invite still stays. Because I know somebody that invited a guy over to his house 6 years ago. The guy came over to rob him with one of his other friends, and he hit them both in the head with a baseball bat, and they sued him saying that 5 years ago they were invited over to his house. So they were still his friends, so they had a right to come over.
Therein lies the problem.
But because they had drugs on them and they were admitted to going over there to rob him or steal or whatever in that place of business, actually it was, then he got off because he was protecting himself in his business. Now, I can get off as protecting my family. I can get off as protecting my home, but I have to prove that that person actually came in there uninvited, knowingly came in that house, that they weren't mental or something. And I also have to prove that the person is of a mental state where they know what they're doing is wrong. So they could say, well, I didn't know I wasn't allowed in his house. And in court that, but, guaranteed if I hit them, they're going to court and I'm going to win.
Here's the thing.
If they live through my hit. That's my point.
I would never advocate breaking the law. Absolutely not, especially breaking a constitutional law.
Well, I've seen somebody one time trying to either break in or get into another apartment and kick my window in. All right, we called the police, and they told us if he comes in the house to get out.
If he comes in the house, get out?
Yep.
I'm sorry. Dead men don't testify.
If that guy had come in my house, he would have gotten a he would have gotten a VCR shoved up his rear end.
When I was going through the police academy and we were qualifying on the range, you're taught to shoot, double tap, 2 shots, center mass. What they don't tell you, what you don't see, is the 3rd shot that you're silently instructed to shoot, and the saying that goes with it. 2 to the body, 1 to the head, make sure the son of a bitch is dead. Because if you're pulling your gun to shoot, you're not pulling it to shoot a warning shot. You're pulling your gun to kill, to stop the aggression.
Well, hell, I like what the military says. It says 1 shot, and that's the way it's done.
The training as a cop is 2 shots center mass, and then quietly, 1 shot to the head to make sure he's done. And the old saying, dead men don't testify. If I can't get to my gun and I have to go to a baseball bat.
See, I don't understand. I don't understand why a cop can't kick out a nightstick, whack somebody across the head with it that's causing a problem, and have them down. If I was a police officer, I would never draw my gun. Somebody reached for my gun, I'd smack them in the face with my nightstick, and they wouldn't have a jaw left to talk. They'd be in so much pain they couldn't do anything else. And if they're not in pain, from me hitting them in the face with a nightstick, then I know I'm dealing with a mentally ill person, and there's a whole different law for that.
Or somebody on PCP.
Well, even with PCP, you don't have a jaw, your body's going to react, and you're going to do something. You're not going to still fight. Your body's going to react to not having your face injured.
No, there were 6 cops at a hotel here in Portsmouth that went after a guy on PCP, and they clubbed him and clubbed him and clubbed him and beat him, and he still kept coming.
Well, I would have clubbed the guy right in the frickin' balls. And he ain't getting up, because if I hit him hard enough, he's going to die.
Right. I don't know.
If you hit a woman in the chest hard enough, she'll die. A man hard enough in the balls, he'll die. If you hit them both in the rib cage right above their stomach where the rib meets their stomach area, they'll go down.
Yeah.
See, they don't teach police officers that I know of, and I took combat martial arts and everything else, but they don't teach them how to subdue you. Like in England, if you walk over there, there's no gun pointed at you. They'll take out a nightstick, they'll hit you, and you'll go down. Here, at least here in New York, where the training is, that's lethal force. That's unnecessary force. Oh, that's unnecessary force. But pulling my gun and shooting you isn't? That's deadly force. What does that? If I hit the guy hard enough, he's going to go down, and he's going to walk in the jail, and he's going to testify and serve for what he did wrong. There's going to be a punishment for his actions, and he's going to learn. Because I'll tell you what, there's nobody running around in England trying to rob places knowing that the cops can beat them with a nightstick. You don't find stupid criminals in Russia and other places where that's all they do is hit you. You find smart criminals that got caught because they did something stupid. You know? You still there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
Just checking because our room started acting up again. Yeah, it's Blog TV, folks. If you want to join us, we're in a chat room, blogtv.com. you want to email us, it's theparanormalworld@yahoo.com. Every Monday at 7 p.m. we go to Blog TV to do a chat room. Open chat and talk. Live call-in number as well for the chat room. So, it's been nice having you as a guest.
Well, thank you.
I'll probably have you in the future, like I do with other ones like Hawk and the other ones. I have every 3 months we try to give people back for discussion, or if a topic comes up. Please keep me informed about your investigations and what's going on. I'm pretty interested in some of them.
Absolutely.
As well as Paranormal Unity. There's a Unity Fest in Elmira, New York.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you can come on down. Huh?
I have an invite to that.
You are going to be there.
I don't know if I can swing that, but I know that I have notification on that event.
I hope you can, because it's going to be really cool. There's some other things happening I'll probably have to talk to you about, but I'm interested in this Unity Fest. I'm interested in going out for Unity. I want to get more involved in it. At one time, I wanted to set up a training program so these people can come and be trained investigators.
Exactly. That's the whole point of Unity, is to help somebody, not to instantly cut another group down or.
Well, that's what's happening. That's what's happening online.
And that's bullshit.
Facebook, they're fighting all the time. They're fighting in another site I joined that I just done. MySpace has a few groups that are wonderful. Ning has a wonderful group. But, you know, all these fighting and stuff, it's only making people turn away. And then they see fighting and they don't like it. It's bad enough that people see a TV show and say, I want to do that, and go for the fame. It's even worse when you find two people that are supposed to be doing science fighting over stupid stuff like who's better than the other one and what group deserves the case. We should all be doing the case. We should all be doing the work, and we should all be making science. The science community, whether government, college, state, whatever it is,
exactly,
realize that this stuff is real.
And the thing is, it's happening more and more.
Well, the same thing goes on.
So there's it's cutting edge stuff.
The same thing goes on with the archaeological community, the science community, the cryptozoology community, the regular zoology community. You have people that want to fight and ruin it, and then science slowly says forget it.
Right.
I mean, we're facing that with Bigfoot right now. There's people that are saying this and that, proving this and that, and the cryptozoology world has not agreed on much of anything really in the past 3 years. And nothing science-wise is getting done.
No. Although, what's his name on Destination Truth brings back a sample of hair, that there's no DNA match of any known creature on Earth.
Yes, I know. That's the fifth DNA hair sample that have been DNA'd no match. Now, no match means this. No match means they can't find a match in the animal kingdom. If something is a match, the one person faked it with rugs, another one faked it with their own hair. However, I don't know how human is different than animal or other, you know.
Yeah, it would show up that it was human.
Yeah.
The
I know one case where somebody's hair showed up. Half of it was human, the other half they could not identify. All unidentifiable means that by their means they cannot identify it. That doesn't mean if they take it to you and you say, oh, that's the strands of glue that we use for press boards. They've just put it all together and it's hardened into a hair like something, you know? All identifiable means is they cannot identify it where they are. If they send it to another institute, maybe they could. And that's another thing. What institutes are qualified to do this? And are they all working together? Are they working separately? One says yes, one says no on one hair sample. So, you know, that's like you looking at tar and saying, no, that's not a good asphalt for the road. And then my company coming in paved the whole road with it.
Right.
I mean,
exactly.
If it's not good, it's not good. Don't use it.
that's what the whole division is. The paranormal is. It's in the
Well, it's even worse. We have people coming in here. You know, I hate to use this term, but it's like professional wrestling. We have people saying, I want to be the next champion, and they can't even get in the ring without tripping over the rope.
Right.
Then we have the guy that's already the champion that says nobody else is going to be the champion, and he takes the belt home and there's no belt. The same thing is happening in the paranormal community. I want to be famous. Screw everybody else. This is the way it's done. Then there's another group that comes in that says, screw you. We're going to do it this way. And then we have somebody like me and yourselves group that comes in and says, what are you two fighting about? Neither one of you are doing anything right. And then we have the group that comes in that everybody says, oh, they're famous. They do it right. You could have 50 people look at the same orb picture. 50 people would have a different opinion. There's something wrong with that scene. If you took a ketchup bottle and squirted it on a hamburger and gave it to somebody and 50 people thought it was something other than ketchup, then there's a problem. A very serious problem. Because ketchup is ketchup. I don't care if it's poured on a hamburger or a hot dog. It's ketchup. Or it's something else and you name what it is.
But you know what?
You don't sit there and say, well, we'll just pour it from a cup and maybe they'll make it better. No. I don't care if it's poured from a cup or a glass. If it's not ketchup, you need to name it something else.
People went for a long time thinking the earth was flat.
Well, the earth is flat, I always thought. It's not flat? When did this happen?
No kidding. I think last week sometime.
Holy crap.
You didn't get them. But the thing is, it takes a lot to cause a paradigm shift in how people view this subject or that subject or just part of a subject.
Yeah.
And until there's something, there's always going to be people that hold on to orbs. There always will. There will always be people that hold on, whatever complete abstract random thought you can come up with, I guarantee there's somebody out there that swears on their life that's what they believe.
Yeah.
That it's correct. And there's no way to convince everybody. It's convincing a substantial portion.
Well, it's the same as that saying, you can fool some of the people some of the time and fool all the people all the time. You can convince some of the people some of the time, but not all the people all the time.
Exactly. So getting a consensus of
and then there's always that 5% chance it's going to look at us and say, this stuff doesn't exist. You're all nuts. And the people that are arguing are making those people laugh at us even more.
Yes, exactly. It's definitely an interesting day to be alive.
I mean, it's like having a one-legged man, win the ass-kicking contest, and everybody said he did it with a fake leg. Well, who's the difference? He had one leg and he won.
Right.
He kicked people's asses and won the contest. It doesn't care if he did it with a fake leg or a real leg. He was a one-legged guy that won the ass-kicking contest. It's a very poor example, but that's what's going on. People are standing here and one-legged. They're getting all of them have one leg. They're getting in a one ass-kicking contest, and when somebody falls, they look at them and try to help them up with their leg. I mean, it's not. It's not going anywhere. But then, yet, people like myself and you know that Unity's here, and we're suffering because of these people that aren't doing stuff right. Like today on Facebook, one of the guys was sharing the stuff that was wrong. I'm like, why are you even telling about them? Just say them, who they are, say they're wrong, and that's the way it goes. And then he's like, well, they took a picture this way and that way. No, that's not wrong. That's just a different way of taking a picture. I don't care if you stand on your head or if you take your head off to take the picture. If you catch something in the picture, that's all I'm worried about.
Right.
It doesn't matter what hand you hold the camera in, as long as the picture shows something, it's evidence. If it doesn't show evidence, you move on. You don't fight about the evidence or what hand you hold the camera in.
Exactly.
But we're not going to win. I mean, we are going to win, but it's going to be very slow. And unfortunately, the people that are suffering are these new people that are coming in, like my co-host, Agnes, who wants to get in here, get stuff done, have the same beliefs I do. But she looked at Facebook and said, this is unbelievable. Why are we putting up with this?
Right.
And then when you go after those people, they only have people on their side. They'll come back after you.
Right.
So nobody's winning if you're all arguing. If everybody's arguing over who gets to eat the pizza, nobody's going to eat any pizza.
I'll tell you what.
Stop arguing and get a slice of pizza and start eating.
When they start arguing over who's going to eat the pizza, I'll go get a steak.
I don't. I just stand there and eat my own pizza. That's what I'm doing. Everybody has a big piece of pizza. The pieces are all the same size. Everybody's fighting over who wants a piece of pizza. And I'm standing there going, I just ordered my own. Would you all take example of what I did?
Exactly. I'm not going to participate in the fighting.
However, if everybody ordered their own pizza, they would fight about which one's better.
Right.
So
I had a guy comment on pictures on a ghost page. In my sister's loft, I said I caught a mist. I got two pictures. The first picture I took, I look in the viewfinder and I see the mist. I didn't have an infrared camera. I had a regular camera with a flash. The second picture, I instantly, when I saw the mist, I raised the camera back up to take a second one. I was not smoking. I had not been smoking. And I take the second picture and the mist is gone.
So you had a regular digital camera and you got mist, and then you took another picture.
The second picture,
yeah,
and it's not there. And I posted it.
Is there a way you can send me this picture?
It's Appalachian Afterlife Paranormal Investigations.
All right. Send me an email with your website with everything on it, because I'd like to maybe post some of these on our show and talk about them.
Absolutely. I'll send to you a message as soon as we get off. But
because we had a wonderful picture of a shadow person that one of these people did at a TAPS event, and it's just absolutely amazing. I mean, I went out and got screen and tried to see if I could copy this picture, and I can't do it.
Right. So I've got this picture up, and some random guy starts commenting on it that it's basically bogus, that it's smoke. Well, no, I was not smoking. That it's mist. No, it's not mist. It was taken at the 1st of June. There's no fog. That it's a reflection.
Well, I've seen fog in June. Yes.
There was no fog that night.
Yeah.
It was a hot night.
Well, I'm just letting our listeners know that fog could come out in June. It could be something.
Okay.
However, if it wasn't there, it wasn't there. But some of our listeners may say, hey, I've seen it before. Yes, you have. But
right,
this is not that.
I take a second picture, and whatever it is gone.
And fog is not going to show up in a picture like mist. You're going to know it's fog in your photo.
But when you see this, when you look at this, I'm not trying to say it's in the shape of a person, but there's movement that you can see in the still frame picture. You can see a directional movement that it has. The leading edge is harder. The trailing edge is softer. But anyway, this random guy just starts essentially ragging on it. And even though I put that out there for people to look at, and like I said, even my personal profile is public. I invite people to look and to comment. I don't have a problem with that, and you don't have to comment that you completely agree with me. I don't, I'm not one of those type people. But don't start saying that it's this, or this, some kind of supporting evidence to it. And I tried debunking the picture. I tried replicating the picture. We do that with other pictures that we have. We don't get a picture of an orb and throw it up and say, "Oh my God, we got paranormal evidence." But if we have something anomalous, we try and get it again. See, can it be duplicated? What are the possible reasons, that this is the way it is in the picture? And I've seen other people, other groups on Facebook post pictures that they didn't know. And I've offered my input on it, but I guess it has to do with more tact than anything. And there are people that take a kind of a holier-than-thou attitude when they're looking at somebody else's evidence.
Well, I can look at an orb, and but I have a lot of experience. I can look at it and say, no, it's not an orb. I refuse to say it's an orb. And people will sit there and scream and yell, and if I was in front of them, they would throw stuff at me. However,
right. Exactly.
I'm not saying it's not an orb for their team. I'm saying I don't believe it is, and my team would not say this is evidence.
Right.
However, I like people to sit there and say, well, he doesn't think it's an orb. Let's take a different look at this, because I've had people say, no, that's not something. Or, oh, yeah, do you realize your photo has A, B, C, and D? And I'll go back and I'll look at it and I'll realize it does and work with the person to see what evidence we have.
Exactly. And that's what I mean by with the whole para-unity is cooperation, working with somebody. When somebody sends them a picture and says, "Hey, look, I got a picture of a ghost standing in my basement steps," and they don't. In the picture, there's a shadow. And, oh my God, that's a shadow of a little girl. And they're not going online and checking the ghost apps and seeing that same little girl is a ghost app. And whoever sent them that picture, they took the picture of the damn basement steps, put this little girl from a computer program, cut it into the picture, copied the picture, and then sent it to them. And, you got somebody that doesn't know that that's there, and they're posting this picture. This was sent to us by a customer, or this was sent to us by, a case. We're going to go investigate this house. Then, I might message and say, hey, that looks suspicious. Check this website. And, compare the girl in the image to the girl on this application, because it looks like an insert. But instead, people that just say, nope, that's fake.
Oh, it's like that guy that posted on YouTube that he purposely made the ghost photo just for people to spread it around line, and that's stupid with it. You got a frill out of it.
Unfortunately, that happens because everybody's wanting to post a viral, a viral link on YouTube. Andy Warhol all over. Everybody wants a 15 minutes of fame.
And
whether it's for something bogus or and it's making it harder to put the real stuff on there because there's becoming so much fake.
Well, it's just like Fact or Fake put a picture up of a lizard man, and they got a heck of a lot of freaking views from it. And they admitted it was fake, and they still started sending them the same photo of lizard man.
Right.
So it doesn't. I don't know what to say about it, because I don't think it has anything. I don't think anything does. Faking pictures is not cool. Yes, I have some EVPs that are funny for my show. Yes, I faked funny pictures, like putting Barney Rubble in the middle of the thing, or putting there was a photo online that had Barney in it as a ghost. And I said, okay,
Right.
that'd be a funny photo. So I did it just to be funny and send it to my friend. You get all this stuff up on Facebook all the time.
Uh-huh.
Now, maybe I will stick a gorilla from a zoo picture I have into a picture of somebody, out back at a picnic table with a gorilla sitting there out in the middle of the yard or something, instead of a bear.
Right.
It's something that's funny. But I'll admit, this is funny. My EVPs that I'm working on for the show are funny,
Right.
funny little EVPs, like, somebody asking if anybody's there and then Mickey Mouse answering, and, something is there. But I admit that that's for the show. That's entertainment. That's a little joke.
Be real.
But I'm not going to take my EVP on investigation and say, look what I caught.
Exactly.
Because that's going to ruin my image. It's going to ruin your image. It's going to ruin somebody that's a skeptic. It says, oh, this is pretty interesting. I like the show on TV. Oh, my God, there's real people that do this on Facebook. Holy crap. And then they want to become our friends, and somebody fakes a picture, and they're like, screw these people.
Right.
It's kind of like with PETA. You don't want to go outside and start trying to shoot the squirrels out of your tree. Because that'll make the real hunter look bad, and then PETA will go after all of you.
Right, exactly.
However, if the guy shoots it out of the tree and he wants to eat it, well, that's a different story. We're going out there to get EVPs to be honest evidence to prove the existence of the paranormal, of afterlife. And here these people want to make a big mockery out of it. Now, I think it's funny. The one thing on YouTube that he did that people are so gullible not to do their homework. I looked at it and I did my homework, and I made my team look at it and do their homework too, and made a lesson out of it.
Exactly.
So, all right, well, thank you for being a guest.
Hey, not a problem, and absolutely I look forward to it again.
Yes, and keep in touch.
I will do that. Now, you're going to be getting a message here shortly with links to the Facebook page, and again, aapighosthunters.com is our website. And it's small, it's basic. There's not a whole lot to play with, but there's a few things to look at.
All right, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Wade.